Where do I get my hands? Here, there.
I don't know.
I always think you're gonna do like this. Remember on Talladega Nights? I don't
I'm
know what
like
to do
a
with my hands.
hunchback. Like I feel like every episode, no matter how straight I look when I watch it on social media, I'm pretty much like this, and it drives me crazy. So I try so hard. Watch, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm like an invertebrate.
Every single one, like every slide that it shows, I'm always like this.
Good. Well, if you sit up straight, because I don't want you looking taller than me.
Please. I don't, because I look like a giant compared to a lot
Well,
of
you're
like
closer to the
cartoons.
camera.
Yeah. I'm like, ugh. I gotta start going to the nestler.
No, Mike called me out the other day. He was like, "Haven't seen you," and I was like, "I went once."
Locker collecting dust.
All right, we ready?
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Texas City Tales. I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Ramari.
And today we're here with Jack Haralson from Public Works talking about Community Matters 2030, kind of what's been done, what's coming, and all things Public Works.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
All right, good to be here.
So, Community Matters 2030 Public Works section, you guys had 3 goals. Can you tell us about what those goals were?
There was a Moses Lake pump station, additional road repairs, and then sidewalk repairs were the 3 goals that were in Public Works.
Okay.
And so I know with like the weather that we've had lately, and pretty much every time it rains, you know, if you grew up in Texas City or you've been here a while, you know, like the pumps are going to be on. Can you tell us a little bit about how the pump stations work and what they do?
We currently have 2 pump stations, Pump Station A and B. They have official names, but that's what we refer to them as. Pump Station A is located off the big levee, Skyline Drive, and Bay Street Extension, and the second one, of course, is right across the biosphere on Loop 197. The way the pump stations work is we get a big heavy rain in. We are essentially sitting at sea level, and we have to drain to sea level. So without the pump stations, we don't drain. So the pump stations allow us to have added elevation, for lack of a better word. So we can have our ditches deeper than sea level and still be able to pump the water out of the city. So it's all based on a levee system, an internal levee system, and that is separate from the external levee system, which is Skyline Drive. Do you want me to speak about the new Moses Lake pump station?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like where it'll be.
So
and how it's working.
the new pump station will allow us, because currently we have a big storm come in. When the tide is out at its lowest, they'll shut the floodgate. The floodgate, and then once the floodgate is shut, it allows us to pump into Moses Lake. There is a limit though. At some point in a big storm, Moses Lake is full. What do you do with the water then? So our new pump station will be taking water out of Moses Lake and putting into Galveston Bay. That gives us a lot more pumping capacity out of the town itself. So that's where that is going to be incredibly beneficial to us. We actually have some neighborhoods and some homes that drain into Moses Lake that are outside of our levee system. So we have instances where heavy flooding, you got a lot of rain, we're pumping into Moses Lake, and people who drain directly into Moses Lake, they don't drain. We're actually filling their ditches up. We get to a point, thank goodness that is rare, but we get to a point is, do you pump to save hundreds of homes, or do you not pump to save a dozen homes? And unfortunately, since I've been here, I've not had to make that decision, but that is a decision that without this new pump station would have to be made. And so that's where that Moses Lake pump station would allow us some help. The pump station, it would be right next to pump station A. So right off of Skyline Drive, we're going to pump over Skyline Drive into Galveston Bay. That allows us a couple things. Number one, it's the shortest direct route from Moses Lake into Galveston Bay. Number two, it allows us to man the pump station with the same personnel that we have at Pump Station A. So we currently have 4 employees that are continuously operating the pump stations. And so we'll be able to split the duties of the 2 employees that will be stationed at Pump Station A. One can go over there and then work the new Moses Lake pump station. That's where that will really benefit us. And that's the reason of the locations. We don't have to add manpower.
Right.
We got somebody right there. Hopefully it'll be within just a walking distance in normal operations. But that's what drove the locations of it.
And I'm glad you mentioned the staff who are at the pump stations, because we had a video recently where we kind of did an animation that showed how the pump stations work. And one of the comments was asking why there need to be people at the pump stations.
It's, one of the things when we're talking about flood preparation, flood control, hey, I had the same question. We've got 4 dedicated employees to pump stations, and it's not like it's raining every day. The deal is, we cannot determine how much it rains. We can't determine how fast it rains. What we can control is how prepared we are for those 2 things when they happen.
Right.
And the only thing that we can do is to make sure that those stations are 100% fully operational at a drop of a hat. We can do it. That's why it's so important, and that's why our city leaders of the past have always had full-time employees at the pump station. These pump stations are meant to operate when the power's out, when you have 0 communication. A computer can't do that. We can't depend on a computer to just run these things. Now, is some of the controls and such run off of that? Yes, new technology will help us be more efficient, will indicate and tell us if we have issues that are coming up. But I wouldn't be comfortable going to a citizen and letting them know that, I put a computer in charge of whether or not their house got 3 foot of water in it.
Right.
That's not something that I'm willing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because so often when you have a storm that would necessitate us turning on the pumps, you're going to have power outages. Even if it's just a flicker or something, computers have to reset, reboot, and start going again.
I look at it just, most people have the new digital thermostats in your house. If that digital thermostat says 72 on it, but you're sweating in short pants in your house, are you going to go to your thermostat? Well, no, it says we're good. You still have to go, you have to have someone there checking it and verifying that the information that you see is accurate. I mean, you have to do it. And so, and like I said, we got these stations manned. We're constantly, if we're not pumping water, we're maintaining and repairing. Those motors that are on the pump stations now are the same ones that they were built. We've rebuilt them, we've maintained them, and the reason why we haven't had to replace those things is because we maintain them so well.
That makes sense. And I saw the number, and I can't even tell you how many times I've re-verified it, because it just doesn't even seem like you can comprehend it. With the 8 screws that we have right now between pump station A and B, they can pump 1 million gallons of water per minute.
1 million gallons a minute. It's one of the things, it's hard for me to imagine, hey, what is 1 inch of rain?
Right.
What does that mean when you say, hey, we got 1 inch of rain? And I like to oversimplify things, but I know that we figured it up. Last big rain we had between 5.5, 6 inches of rain. In that rain event, when we know a rainstorm's coming, we always run the pump stations to pump the ponding areas right in front of the screws. We pump them down, and then we pump as we need to. That heavy rain, we pumped over 1 billion gallons of water out of the city ditches, the storm sewer system, into Moses Lake. That was 5.5, 6 inch rain, and you got to think, hey, there's another probably billion gallons of water that fell just directly into Moses Lake, and probably another billion or close to that flowed into Moses Lake from Moses Bayou or Bayou Pierre, our areas of town that are outside of our internal levee system, that the pump stations don't help. So I mean that's a lot of water to think about. I mean our natatorium, which is an 8-lane Olympic swim pool, that's 500,000 gallons of water.
Yeah,
And
to
we're
think
talking
about
about
that,
a billion.
Yeah, every minute, 2 natatoriums going through the pumps.
Right.
I mean, that's mind blowing.
It is a big deal.
It's a lot of water.
It is.
It is, and, and another thing that and I think that you've reported that on the website before, and we've talked about it at other times, but we get all the time, how come the pumps aren't on? How come the pumps aren't on? Number one, we painted white stripes on those screws so people can see the screws turning. When it's raining, the screws are black, you can't see them. So they may be running, but you can't see it.
Right.
So, hey, how come the screws aren't on? That's why the stripes are on there. It's for nothing but for citizens to see that they're turning. Number two, another thing to keep in mind is that it isn't a straw. It's not a suction that is created by those pumps. If you think about it, every little ditch that runs in front of somebody's house, every storm inlet that's in a street, it's got to go through there and then end up in front of the screw. So there's a lot of times where it'll rain heavy on the south side of town and we have streets flooded, but the pumps won't do us any good because the water isn't there yet. So it still takes time to get there. So when we know rain's coming, we make sure that the ponding area is pumped down, but we still have the water. We can't pump water that's not in front of us.
Right.
And we try to stay on top of it as much. We do stay on top of it as much as possible. Those 4 guys, they're on call 24/7. 24/7. They'll let me know when they go, but they're already at the station before the first thunder strike wakes me up. Hey, they're already there, pumping away.
Yeah.
So the citizens, I hope they know that we're doing everything that we can that is under our control.
So the new pump station, what's the status on that right now? I know it's a far out goal, but where are we on that?
We got a grant, a GLO grant to fund the station. We've been working with the Corps of Engineers. In fact, we just were able to turn over our design documents for them to review. Right now I think the whole review process and the bidding process, all that stuff, it's probably going to be end of this year, early next year before we'll be able to put it out for bid, so we can get going on constructing it. I know it's weird to think this, but just the pumps alone, these are different pumps. They're not going to be screws. It's a different style of pump. But the new pumps, they're not sitting in a warehouse somewhere. They have to be custom built. That alone takes a year once we order the pumps to get going. So it's more than likely going to be, it's going to be a year and a half or so before we get this thing up and going in operation.
But it's going to be so good when we do.
It will be, hopefully, if we do our jobs right, if the weather, cooperates, nobody will ever know that this thing is even running. That's what this allows us to do. We've got a storm out in the Gulf. Just like I described before, the county which operates the floodgate, they monitor when the tide is going to be out at its lowest. They shut the floodgate. Once that floodgate is shut, we start pumping the Moses Lake pump station. So we can lower the level of Moses Lake to allow us even more capacity to either drain into Moses Lake or be pumped into it. So it helps out all of the areas on our west side of town that are outside of our internal levee system, as well as people who live at Grand Cay. We're going to lower Moses Lake. Now, hey, you got a big body of water that large, it will be almost unnoticeable
Right.
but it is something.
Mhm.
It's, it's a lot when we're running, 3 pumps continuously for 4 or 5 days. It's going to make a difference. It's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. I could talk about this all day. But
I
know
could too,
you
so
have-
you're going to have to cut me short because I like talking.
I think it's fascinating. I really do. I kind of geek out on it. But I know you have 2 whole other goals.
The one that I'm excited, obviously, about the pump station because I think that it's going to be amazing for the city. It's going to be super beneficial. What I'm most excited about is the sidewalks because I'm a Cali kid, and sidewalks are that's something that was so common. And so to move to a city that doesn't, to a state, because really all of Texas sidewalks aren't common. It's so weird to not have like that connectivity. So I know that's one of the goals. Talk to us about that.
It is. In the past, our sidewalks, number one, developers are the ones who've always put in the sidewalks. So the developers, when they're developing a neighborhood, they build the streets, put in all the underground utilities, they build the sidewalks at the same time. So once it's all built and accepted by the city takes it over for life. Not all developments had sidewalks.
Right.
We've got the old parts of town. I mean, hey, they were built in the 50s, the 40s. There's no sidewalks around. Also, we've never repaired sidewalks in the past, except for there's 2 instances really. If you have a sidewalk is damaged, it's collapsed, it's broken, and we find out that it's due to some underground utility problem. So either a water line break or a break in a sanitary sewer or a storm sewer line, that'll cause the sidewalk to cave in, and there's all kinds of issues that can happen. We've always, when we would repair sidewalks in conjunction with the repair of the underground utility, and it's always just been a budget thing. Hey, we've got parts of town that'll have busted up sidewalks, but it's right next to these big oak trees. Hey, do you want us to cut the tree down? Do we want to, take a big stump grinder and when we pull that broken sidewalk up, smooth out the area where the roots have made that happen? Nobody wants that. So it's kind of just, then that doesn't happen overnight, of course, but it does happen. So we've just never had a budget item for sidewalk repair. The only other time that we've repaired sidewalks or installed sidewalks from a city standpoint is when we go in, I think it's been probably 10 years ago or so, we had a big bond issue in town. And it was relegated mainly for, upgrading our sanitary sewer, our sewer lines, as well as our water lines. If you're doing a big water line, sewer line, storm sewer project, you're going to rip the entire road up. So when we build everything back, we put the sidewalks in at that time. When the Community Matters thing came through, and the citizens just like you were, Maury, it's, if you remember, when this town was built, not everybody had 2 and 3 cars at a household. So, kids riding their bike in the street or running around, it's not a big deal.
Right.
It's not as safe as it used to be. Have the kids running the street. When we put those sidewalks have really came to the forefront. We put that in, and we were able to get a line item for the budget just for sidewalks. That's a big deal for us. It allows us to get a contractor to come in. We can knock out a bunch of sidewalks at the same time. In the meantime, I've gotten with our inspections department. Hey, when we put these new developments in, can we ask them not to put trees so close to the sidewalks? Because that will help.
Right.
We need help from our citizens. Don't drive on the sidewalks. Don't park on top of them. There's a lot of parts of town where the sidewalks are close enough to the back of the curb where to keep from blocking the road so much, and I think the citizens do it to be polite to people driving up and down the road. They'll put two wheels on top of the sidewalk. You know, the road is, you know, heavily stabilized underneath the roadway. It's got 6 inches of concrete. The sidewalk is 4 inches thick, and it may have wire mesh in it for reinforcement. And the you know, the subgrade or the stabilization underneath it is just a layer of sand. It's just to smooth it out. A lot of them get broken up all the time.
One of those people.
And that's not. It's just
Okay.
just people don't know, and they do it all the time. They're thinking they're being polite by pulling up on the sidewalk, but the sidewalks aren't meant to hold that kind of load. But even if you go through some of our newer neighborhoods now, I say newer. I keep forgetting how old I am now, but Swallows Meadow, the Islands, those are some of the, until this last round of heavy development that we started having in Texas City, those are the new subdivisions. Go through and just look at the settlement that has happened and the trees and things like that have caused sidewalks to become so heavily uneven. Even around, you know, the City Hall sidewalks. We've got some areas where those beautiful oak trees have caused some problems. So we've got a lot of opportunity in town. You know, the amount of money, it's not going to fix everything, and that's the hard thing about, you know, trying to get our citizens, is that we'll get complaints in about this needs to happen, this needs to, and it does, and I'm in agreement with them. We've tried to put kind of a little a spreadsheet with some items of what areas we attack first, and that's gonna you know, be based on how heavily used the sidewalk is, how beneficial it is to the city as a whole. We've got to take care of those things first, and then we can spread out into more of a neighborhood sidewalks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
But that is a big deal, and I think that's a huge thing that Mayor Johnson and the commissioners have allowed us to do. They were able to put it in our budget.
so if somebody sees a sidewalk and they just want to like help by giving a heads up, can they call in? Can they?
We want to. I always want input from our citizens. Most of them will always say, "Hey, I don't want to complain." Trust me, we don't take it as complaints. We take it as informing us. You know, we have tasks that our crews do on a daily basis, and we don't spot some of these things.
Right.
If you don't live in that neighborhood, you don't know.
Right.
So please, if there's something that we need to get, hey, let's get it put on a list so we know this area and this part of town needs some sidewalk repairs. Let us know. We'll make sure that it gets on the list. Number one, we'll check it out, because a lot of times it is a water line. It is a storm or a sanitary sewer line that is damaged and is in need of repair. So them telling us about a sidewalk can lead into other problems that we didn't know we had that we can get repaired at the same time.
Yeah, I love that you have that exact like mindset. I think you're one of the more of all the cities I've lived in or worked in, you know, really want people to let you know. I remember one of the first conversations you and I had, I was asking if there's a pothole in the road, what do people do? And you were like, call us. We got the patch truck running every single day and we'll get on it. And my mind was blown. Like, that's as easy as it gets right there.
Hey, it doesn't, you know, emails, things like that, it's always going to generate a phone call from us to the citizen. So I always, you know, welcome phone calls to let us know we don't have, and I think, you know, I've run into problems where I had somebody finally, and they would complain to one of our city leaders, hey, this has been here for 4 years. Well, we didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't know. It's not that we're actively ignoring things. Please let us know. You know, we'll always have citizens that we don't get to take care of, and I hate that. That's the one thing I hate, is telling somebody, hey, I'm sorry, that's your problem. I can't do anything about it. I'll do it. I just don't like it. But I still want to hear them, at least that, hey, if you want to just chew somebody out because you don't like what's going on, sometimes that makes, they'll understand, but they just want to get that off their chest. So that's a big deal, and I think that's what we're paid to do. I don't want somebody cussing me out in the line at the grocery store, but if you call us, I'll talk to you. I'll talk. That's my job.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about Texas City is that everybody genuinely cares and is willing to listen and do whatever they can.
I live here. This is my home and has been for a long, long time. So.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads us into that final goal of roads. I know y'all are talking about more extensive projects than just patching.
It is, and one of the things I mentioned this before, just earlier, is that we get a lot of calls in for road repairs, and the answer is we agree. We agree. Mm-hmm. Our city forces don't always have the time to do that because our street and bridge department is also, they drive all of our trucks. So if we have a storm come in, if we have a heavy rain come in, now they're off clearing roads, they're off doing other things. If we have a big water line break, we've got to pull off to repair that road. Mm-hmm. So it's sometimes a little difficult that we can't, and it, just, hey, let's go hit this road and we're on it until we're done. That's what we'd like to do, and weather permitting, that's what we will do. Mm-hmm. But it just takes one thing, and then those crews have to go kind of button things up at that project and move on to the next one. So once again, the mayor and the commission has allowed us some more money. So if we get caught up and hung up doing other things, now maybe we can get a contractor in to help to knock out a few more projects. We just recently finished up 13th Avenue. Right now we're working on replacing the road in the Oaks subdivision, which is off of Oak Street on the west side of town. We're doing Burr Oak and Black Oak. A couple years ago we did a few other streets in that neighborhood. And we let them know, hey, listen, we can't do all of it. We were trying to spread out, a little here, a little there, because it needs to happen in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. The next road that we're going to after Burr Oak and Black Oak is Estelle Circle. It's sometimes roads like Estelle Circle, it's a little short, dead-end, cul-de-sac road. Nobody drives down there except for the people who live there. But it is in need of repair. And those, unfortunately, are the ones that, just because it's not as heavily trafficked, those get patched over and over. And it's time we get that. Yeah. And another thing is that we have to keep in mind, I want our citizens to keep in mind, is that developers build roads. The city, we don't build roads, we maintain roads. And that's what I tell all the time. We don't build them, we maintain them. So a development comes in, let's just say at Lago Mar. Lago Mar, brand new subdivision. The development builds the roads. Most of the time the roads, they all start showing its age and start failing all at the same time. And that's kind of where we're at in some of those areas. Lago Mar, those are concrete streets. They should last 50 years. I won't be here around, to mess with that. And so you don't know how old I am. If I'm around, I won't care at that point. I'll be just trying to get out of bed. But that's it's all over the sections of town, is that we'll have all the roads in a certain, they all go out and they're all in need all at the same time. So, we have almost every road from 6th Street to Bay Street. We just redid 19th Avenue a year ago. 19th Avenue south to Texas Avenue, with the exception of a handful of roads, they're all in need. They're all in need of repavement, and we know that. It's just you can't do it all at one time. So, we patch the roads. We do the best we can. We try to keep those potholes at bay, because the potholes are ones that if they're not repaired, not filled in,
they really destroy the road real quick. So, hey, just give us a call. We'll keep it on the list. We'll keep moving, and we'll do everything that we can to keep things rolling.
Yeah.
And I could talk about this all day, so you have to tell me to shut up, because like I said, I was about to list all the roads that I know we've repaired. And it's not just that area of town. It's not. There's a lot of them. I can go from, the next step would be from 6th Street to 9th Street, and from 19th Avenue, down. There's a lot of roads over there. I have a gentleman that's on 17th Avenue between 6th and 9th that, he's been calling me pretty regular. And my answer to him is, you're right. I mean, it is. Every time we do a new road, then I tell the police, all right, now it's on you, because then you're going to have complaints for people driving too fast. So that's the next thing that happens. The next thing that happens, everybody wants a new road, and then nobody likes how fast and smooth it is when they're driving through there.
You're just passing the baton now. Like now,
hey, it's out of my hands. I can't do anything now. So
that's funny. Good point. That's a good point. I didn't really think about that. So are there major thoroughfares in Texas City that the city does not maintain? Do they fall under another jurisdiction?
There's sections of Palmer Highway that we don't do. So we stop at 14th Street. 14th Street to Bay Street is ours, and then once you head west and go out of town, that's TxDOT is still in control of that. Highway 3, Texas Avenue, from about the same mark on, that's heavily TxDOT. And here's another thing is, along with the roadways, you've got a lot of the traffic signals are maintained by TxDOT, as well as the storm sewer on some of those roads are influenced or controlled by TxDOT. That's all that flooding that happens right in front of City Hall. It goes into a TxDOT storm sewer line. My understanding, that used to be an open ditch in the middle of Palmer for a while, for a long while, before that was filled in. There's a lot of, Highway 3 is all TxDOT. 146 is TxDOT. But call us.
Yeah.
We'll let you know, and we'll do what we can. Whether that is, hey, we can't do anything. It's not because we don't want to. It's because it's either out of our jurisdiction or we don't have the funds to do that.
So maybe help point people in the right direction.
That's all we can. Yeah. I mean, we can do. And there's there's a lot of parts of town, and like I said it before, is I hate telling a citizen there's nothing I can do. I'll keep trying. And we'll do little things, but I think if that's all we can do is try and listen, then I'm going to do that. I don't like telling somebody, hey, sorry, your house is too low.
Yeah.
That's not something that I can tell them, even though that may be the truth, that, hey, your house is too low. Okay, my job is to help them, not just to tell them what they already knew.
Yeah.
Is, hey, we'll do what we can. But still, that is, I struggle with that, being straightforward with somebody and say, hey, that's, because I don't want them to take it, hey, that's not my problem.
Right.
I don't want that to come across that way, because that's not my intent, even though that's kind of what it boils down to, is that I can't do anything. But anyway, that's another subject. What else we got?
That's all I had.
Yeah, I think we've hit all of our matters of focus as it relates to public works. But I do want to say that I commend you, Jack. I think that you have one of the best departments in the city of Texas City. Like, all of your crews are awesome, and I think it starts with like the leadership.
Well, and I really appreciate that, Ramari. What I tell the guys all the time is, and this is hard, because most of our work is just monotonous. It's the same thing over and over again. Sometimes it's hard to stay motivated when you do, hey, if I finish today, I'm just going to have to do some more of the same tomorrow. It's hard to stay motivated, so we try to break it down. I've got a lot of good supervisors that have been doing this a long time. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, even though if you ask my wife, I act like I am. And so, but I have a lot of guys who really know what they're doing, and it makes it easy to do that. And we know, all of our guys from the lowest level up to the top, is that when things aren't going well, that's when we, hey, if there's a freeze, if it's flooding, I'm sorry, guys, your house comes second. The city comes first, because that's when they really need us, and that's when we're dependent. If you can get to work, you got to be at work. And so that's the mindset that our department has. And I want to say one thing. Whenever we're doing road work or we're doing any kind of concrete work, when citizens pass by and it seems like that our guys are just not doing anything, we're waiting on material. My number one guy who's been in construction his whole life and knows everything about every type of construction. From a skyscraper down to a flower bed, he can build anything. He's not intimidated by anything. He told me one time, he says he's probably wasted half of his life waiting on concrete. And that's it really is. There's an indication that, hey, listen, we can't do anything until asphalt shows up, until our load of rock shows up, until the concrete company delivers our material. So I have to tell the guys, listen, you got to do something. There's a difference between waiting on concrete, taking a sip of water, cleaning your shovel off, than there is sitting on the tailgate of a truck. It's the same thing. It just looks bad. But that is something that, man, just in case y'all get phone calls, that hey, we're waiting on material, I promise. There's been times I've called the mayor and said, hey, I just want to let you know if you get any phone calls, because it never fails. It'll be, school drop-off or pickup, and I've got guys sitting around waiting on concrete. And it just looks bad. It's nothing we can control, but it just looks bad.
That's a good point. I've passed by different crews working, and I've never thought that, like, oh my God, they look so lazy. I've thought, oh my God, like they're working so hard, because I could never be out there doing what they're doing.
Because there's never really good weather. I mean, born and raised here, but there's
too hot, it's too cold,
too mosquito-y,
wet.
Like.
There's bugs.
Yeah.
I could never. I would never.
Well,
so
we've got some good crews who
they're always so kind.
Always.
Like I said, we're now one thing that we are as a department, and we're trying to get guys, is that I want some younger guys to start thinking about getting into this, this business. I mean, we struggle with finding 19, 20-year-old young men and women. And women.
For the girls that want to play in dirt.
Oh, right.
Better tougher than being remarked.
to apply for these positions. I mean, these are full-time jobs that we look for. We don't always have spots open. We don't. But when we do, traditionally we've kind of just replaced someone who's retired with someone who's getting ready to retire.
Right.
And we'll take them because they have all the knowledge. We do. But we also want to remind the young people out there that, hey, you can make a living, you can raise a family working for the city that, maybe you live in, that you care about. And the more people that we have that knows what's going on, the more that we can kind of educate each other, how we can help each other out. So.
And make a difference. I mean, it's a job where you really and truly are making a difference.
It is.
In people's lives.
It's meaningful. It's meaningful. It is, and that's I've worked here and for the school district, and it does make a difference. It makes you feel good that you're doing something for somebody else. I don't do as much as the work as my guys do. I'm what what we call in the construction industry as non-productive labor. So that's a real term that we use. So the productive labor are the guys who are out there putting in the hard work, and I do appreciate them. I don't tell them enough, and unfortunately, I don't see them enough to tell them. There's sometimes administrative duties y'all know how that goes. It kind of consumes a lot of time. But if the guys are out there, you're doing a great job, and we really appreciate everything that you do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us today,
Yes, ma'am.
Jack. Thank you to Mr. Jack Haralson with the Public Works Department for joining us today. Thank you to the City of Texas City for sponsoring this podcast. You can catch new episodes on the city's Facebook page, YouTube, or wherever podcasts are streamed. Until next time,
Bye.
bye. Dang, now I'm going to laugh.
You do the whole thing over again?
No, just
Y'all going to edit it. Like I said, I can ramble on and I can get off subject and out of track. So.
No, I'm just going to tell you thank you
Oh,
again.
okay.
Though.